You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked hot.
Hey guys, this is Tanya.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapist.
Welcome to another episode. We are actually in our third season, and so this is pretty exciting. We should count up how many episodes. I know we got 75 episodes not too long ago.
I think we're at like 75, or well, more than 75, so probably at least 78.
Yeah, we're getting up there. So thank you for continuing to join us. If you're new here, we are a podcast that likes to discuss some topics involving mental health, revolving around movies, shows, sitcoms, documentaries, things like that. That's kind of our niche. But today we are discussing, if you have been active on Netflix, you would be very aware of this. It's called Apple Cider Vinegar. And it is a dramatization based on a real story, which some of the facts have been changed. It's not completely accurate, which they very much put in there. And it involves a scammer named Belle Gibson, whom we do not like very much. So she is a real character. She is someone who was able to fool many people, made a lot of profit off of products and content and apps, books, or a book that then got revoked, which talked about leading a healthy lifestyle and being able to cure the cancer that she says she had, which, spoiler alert, she did not have cancer at all. Which, as you can see, this is really dangerous, not only mentally corrupt and horrendous, but just absolutely, I think, one of the worst things you can do, right? Yeah. So Belle, we learn, is a complex character. She is really someone who presents things with a lot of confidence. She has the ability to lie on the fly. Like, she really can pull out those lies and construct these very confident narratives that people just, I think most people would believe, because she just comes off so straightforward, so knowledgeable. And she's very smart. She's not a stupid person. And she does know a lot about the natural food, holistic way of living. I'm trying to remember how she starts out saying she has cancer. I think it was she was kind of hurt by something, and then she kind of gets so hurt that she feels like she needs attention and starts to write all these things online about how she has cancer. Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was something being she was in a bad relationship with her son's father. They were poor, young and poor. It seems like she wasn't getting any attention from anybody. So, and I don't know, and her mom had MS, so she was familiar with brain diseases. This is what I got. And then I don't think she really had an MRI. I think maybe she did or had something. And then, of course, there was no findings because she didn't have anything. But then I think that's when she ran with it. Like, oh, I got a lot of attention, get in the testing. And what would it look like, since I'm a stay-at-home mom, or I'm not really having any support from anybody. And I think that was when she started to run with it, and be like, okay, let me create this fake diagnosis and this persona.
Yeah, I feel like there was some need for attention, and that she was really kind of looking for something to be able to continue to say, okay, this is going to feed my need for attention. I feel like she probably had some form of, and this is just a guess, and I don't really know this, right? Because we don't work with her, we don't treat her, it's just, but it seems like maybe factitious disorder or Munchausen, right? Like, not by proxy, not posed on another, but like maybe for herself, that maybe she realized, oh, if I do this, people will give me attention. I think she started to see, she was reading another profile and seeing how much support, kind of online presence this other person was getting, or other people. She, I think, said, well, I'm so upset, I'm going to go to the hospital and say, I have headaches, or I have all these symptoms, and get attention from that. And then she just decided to post online that even though these were not the results, she was told everything was fine by the hospital, to say that she had brain cancer. which is, the kind that she had said she had. That's a pretty devastating diagnosis. And it's, I think she had said she was in like a late stage too, which at that point there's a pretty low chance of survival, never mind even like living kind of well day to day. And she started to promote a lifestyle of this holistic living that's, saying, okay, I followed these recipes, this type of eating, made all these she was good at inventing recipes, really good recipes. She could like just do them all.
And just use her stuff for good instead of evil. And just be like, hey, I can be an influencer and look at these really great. I love to cook and I can make really good recipes.
Yeah. Yeah, she looked like she was making some great stuff. Like I was like, oh, that looks good. And she like didn't even have to really do the like she didn't have to put much thought into it. She was just like, yeah, you do this and that. She had like a natural talent for it, I think. And instead, she created this whole narrative about this type of living was the thing that was reversing her cancer. I think she had said, this is stuff that I don't know if she said she went into remission or if she was like just
cured. I don't know.
Doing a lot better. I'm not really sure what the real, because this is based on true story, but there's some facts that are not quite
real.
There's some liberties taken. But she ends up getting a huge following. People really believe this story. And this is dangerous, obviously, because she did not have cancer. And some people may feel kind of fed up with the options they may have, this type of cancer treatment, or, having to seek out, pay for, go through the difficulties of this, and may think, wow, maybe I have a shot at being able to cure my cancer or have this be in remission, when this does not have a high probability of being in remission. And she affects some people. But in the meantime, she gets all this attention. She also gets a book deal, which was actually on Apple, like an app for it. And it was, she just had such confidence and wherewithal that people didn't really, I don't think they thought anybody would lie about having cancer.
And she was really good at selling. So I think that's it too. Like she made people, again, even though as like whatever stuff was going on with her, she could have done really well being an honest person, because it seemed like she was really good at marketing herself. She was really good at creating and, getting these difficult meetings probably with Apple. And so if she would have just been like, hey, I'm a 20-something-year-old and I'm never gone to culinary school, but look at what I can do, people would have been impressed without her making all these other lies.
Yeah. And I know there was something about, I don't know how true this is because I don't know anything about like the publishing world or anything, but I know that the person that she goes to when she goes to publish, she kind of tricks into getting a meeting. She's got all these resourceful ways of being like, let me in, and it somehow works. But the woman, I can't think of her name, the one who published her book, had said, it's the story behind it, right? It's not necessarily just that you have these things, it's the story behind it. And I think Belle kind of sensed too late, like, oh, I've put out this narrative, now this is what's going to make it sell, right? But if she had presented it maybe from the beginning and gone a different route, that could have been really, like a single parent who doesn't have much time, but was able to make this healthy lifestyle work.
Yeah, people would have been interested in that, because you see that now, like you see, like, I don't know, I always feel like my things are flooded by like, look at what I've done by myself. And I don't have probably all the joy. Sign up for my course. Or you're always like,
right. Yeah, and you're like, why am I getting
how did I get on that algorithm? I always wonder that. What did I accidentally click on? That now all of a sudden I'm like, every single course in the world or every single thing thinks I want to join it or be part of it.
Yeah, seriously. It's like one and you could have just really accidentally clicked on it, or just like even just passed by it and lingered for a minute because you looked up off your phone and they're like, oh, nope, she's looking at it, because they can even read that off the algorithm. But this person is very dishonest. She is dangerous. She believes her lies to the point where she probably still to this day believes her lies. I don't know if that's true, but it seemed like it from some of the last interviews she gave. But to kind of backtrack a little bit, we do learn about her childhood. We see that her mom has some stuff going, right? She She had MS. I think mom had said it was not as much as Belle had exaggerated and said it was like she had to take care of the whole household and her younger autistic brother, which was not true. Her younger brother was not autistic and she did not have to take care of the household. The mom was like, I had mild flare-ups, but also the mom had some competitiveness when she has a boyfriend. She's really happy to flaunt that with Belle. It's like they have this competitiveness. Mom definitely has some personality disorder-ish stuff that you can tell has really influenced and affected Belle, because Belle obviously has that too. So there's definitely an unhealthy dynamic there.
Emotional, immature parenting happening. And, it's probably that may have influenced whatever personality disorder Belle may have from her childhood.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think she probably just wanted to go and reinvent herself and be something completely different. This is what a success looks like. And in that way, you can kind of understand her, but not how she did it, of course. But, and then there's also, she meets Clive, who is the person she meets after the father of her child leaves. And even in how she meets him is manipulative. She wants something from him. Because his position will allow her to be able to, where was he working? His position would allow her.
He was an IT person somewhere where something that she was trying to be a little more seen. I forget what it was, but she did manipulate, and she started flirting and then needed a ride somewhere. So then all of a sudden they just started to date, and is like, she just kind of latched onto his life because she was unemployed at the time and he had a job and he could probably help her.
Right. That's what it was. And she saw him at some kind of event and was like, ooh, he's a good IT person. And she goes and flirts with him. And I mean, everything is pretty transactional with her. She wants something from if she's trying to know people. And he's you could tell, kind of nervous, shy, nice guy. And she knows that. She can read that. She's very good at reading people. She's very manipulative. And she ultimately just takes advantage of that and, kind of keeps him around because he can offer her that stability, but she doesn't really seem to consider what it is he needs. It's like a one-way street in the relationship. And at first, he's really concerned with all her health issues. He starts to suspect along the way. When he drops her off for her appointment, he goes because I think she left something in the car, and he goes in and they're like, we've never heard of that patient, and like, this isn't even the right place to get like your chemotherapy kind of thing. And he was just like, kind of starting to realize there's something going on here. He's starting to see that in pieces. And eventually, after a while, he really sees how much she lies, the patterns that she has. And even when he confronts her, he sees how much she will just kind of pull something out and make it work. And he's like, oh, wow, she's messed up. She's really kind of messed up, at least in the portrayal of the documentary or the dramatization.
But he stays with her, too, because I think his loyalty to her son, was it Oliver or something, that he ends up becoming very attached to. And he ends up being basically almost the main parent because she's so focused on herself and her phone and her app and, like whatever else is happening to make herself look better. She forgets to interact with real people.
Yeah. She's just all about herself, and he genuinely loves her son and feels like it's his own son. And she makes a comment in one of the scenes where it's like, why would you be able to have any rights? You're not his father. You're not on his birth certificate. And he's so hurt by that because he's just like, I've been here and you would just take that away from me. It's just such a rotten thing. And he basically is just staying with her because he loves the little boy like his own. And he is parenting him and being the only stable parent because she's allowing, there's one scene when she has a birthday party for Oliver that she has parents around, she made it like this huge to do. It was more kind of like, it was more a party that was like, you could take pictures of and put in a magazine kind of thing. And, with her perfect house and like, she's all about image. And when she starts to feel like she's not getting enough attention, all of a sudden she has a seizure and she drops like this big plate of food on the floor and nobody knows what to do. And you see Clive, her boyfriend, kind of like look like upset, but like at her
Mhm.
and very annoyed because he knows you just did this at your son's party in front of him, scared the crap out of him, and just so you could get
Yeah.
attention. And he just kind of takes him away and is just like so mad at her about that. That's just
Yeah.
so awful that she would do that in front of him, like, not even to
Yeah.
think
Let
about
let me
him.
just do this
So
fake
so
seizure.
narcissistic.
I looked online because I was curious, and that really did happen. All the other things like they did were kind of fake or, just added. But she did definitely fake a seizure at her son's birthday party, which is like so awful to do. Just like so selfish and so self-absorbed. It's like, oh, they're paying attention to him. He's playing with his presents or whatever's happening.
God forbid on his birthday.
Yeah, now everyone has to stop and go to you.
Yeah, it was like this pathological need for attention. And you can see that in her mom when her mom ultimately goes to be interviewed and kind of just flips on her daughter because she's going to get some
Yeah.
attention from it, and so you're like, oh, well, there it is. Okay. So there's just a lot of trauma. You can see that kind of gets passed down, a lot of
Mhm.
personality stuff that is replicated with Belle in a different way. Again, not an
Mhm.
excuse, just saying you can see it. And yeah, and she traumatizes her son. I mean, now his memories are of that as a birthday, like his
Yeah.
mom because as far as he knows, this little boy thinks this
Yeah.
is real.
I'm curious, like, if he grew up and every time he had a birthday or a party, if that caused him fear or anxiety of like, "Oh, did I
Mm,
cause this?"
maybe he didn't
Yeah,
even wanna have a
he
birthday
might have been
party
like, "We're
after
just
that.
doing the 3 of us from now on. No, no friends,
Yeah.
no party."
That was really terrible. I hated that scene. That made me,
Yeah.
like, so upset.
Kid too. I mean, I
Um,
remember like as a little kid, like the birthday parties and stuff like that. I only remember a couple because then they caused me as a child too much anxiety that I was like, nope, not gonna do it. I remember like waiting for friends to come, being all anxious, crying, like if no one was coming. But I can't imagine how stressful that would be as a little kid. That if your mom or someone is just falling to the ground, that would be so stressful. And I'd be like, nope, never having a birthday party again.
yeah, that would just be like, "No, no thanks. Maybe I hate my birthday
Yeah.
now." Yeah. And also, we haven't talked about some of the other characters that they do feature in the dramatization, which we know, like, one is fairly accurate. It's a little different than how it's portrayed, but it's pretty
Yeah.
accurate. Where there is one woman who she idolizes, Belle, and she is seeing how, Belle got
Yeah.
better from all this holistic treatment and all the stuff that she's touting on her socials and everything. And she is just really worn down by the
Mhm.
cube, is just like, I don't want to live this way. I mean, totally understandable, but takes that as like, oh, maybe I can do some of this as well
Mhm.
too. And I don't know, that was Lucy. I don't know how if that was an actual true character or not, but she ends up trying to kind of go and spiritually try to find answers to, like, maybe accept death and try some other kind of natural means of dealing with
Right.
this. And she actually ends up finding a pretty good
Yeah.
balance for herself, at least as the
Yeah. And
character
then
in the
her husband
dramatization.
is one of the main reporters too. So that would be interesting if she
Yeah.
really was a real character.
Yeah, because he really sees, he's obviously in love with, his wife, and he's so worried about her listening to this person that he's like, it just doesn't sound right to him in his journalistic
Yeah.
investigative mind. He's like, this is very
Yeah.
weird. And he starts to investigate that, and lo and behold, yeah, there's some weird stuff about it for sure. And he ends up in the dramatization writing the
Mhm.
story that would take her down because she needed to be taken down. And there's also other characters. There's Millie and her mom, right? That was a sad
Yeah.
one. That is actually, you said, is
Yeah.
pretty
I don't remember
pretty
the people's
accurate.
names, but it is very similar to what happened. And that's sad too. And you don't know if they were influenced by her or if they just were going on their own holistic journey themselves. And this is just a side by side comparison.
Yeah, I think in the Netflix special, it made it seem like this Millie was very kind of hard headed. She realized she had some tumors in her arm. They had said like, okay, usually the treatment is amputation of the arm. And she was like, no, I don't want to do that. That's not something I'm willing to accept. And she was reading about, I think on her own, some holistic ways of curing this. And then also being able to try a direct infusion into her arm to be like, will that help it? It didn't help it. And she, I think, just becomes strengthened by the fact that like there's this place in Costa Rica where
I don't know if she did Costa Rica or she did somewhere else, but somewhere in that area. Because
Mexico?
maybe because I know the
Mexico,
one person went to Costa Rica and maybe it was Mexico.
Lucy went to, and then I think it was Mexico. I'm not remembering the details. I watched this when it first came out, but I believe it was in Mexico. This institute that she's just taken in by, that's like, you just need to do all these enemas, drink just natural fruit juices. And, this person is really Millie. She's very taken by this and thinks, oh my God, I could save myself. This is what doctors are missing. And the institute that this place is at really touts this, like, doctors don't know what they're talking about. We understand, like, this is what happens. And it makes sense to someone who's really desperate to be like, I don't want to lose my arm. This young girl who's like in her 20s,
and then the person is like, oh, I forget. I think she was like from Germany or something like that. And my father was this renowned scientist and this and that. And so then you're like, oh, wow. So they know what they're talking about. And then they're probably paid thousands and thousands of dollars to do it. It just seems so shady that they're doing it, but they're doing it in a different manner than Belle Gibson, because it's like, oh, look at this great institute we have. And we have all these people and we're doing this and we're doing coffee enemas. And, it's just so,
it seems so effective. And like they back it up with like, oh, I had hip surgery and I was given a 90% chance to never walk again. And look at me, and all these other cases that they presented. And when they would have like their one-on-ones, like the psychological, like, I don't know if I can continue to believe this. The woman who ran the center was very much kind of convincing and being like, you have to believe it. You have to kind of, know that this is something that is, that's part of your mental block. That's just the only thing that's coming between you and just a lot of hooey, honestly. It really was.
A lot of the magic, like believing them and having her, whatever was happening with her arm is a lot different than hip surgery. Because maybe the being outside in the mountains or whatever was good for someone with hip surgery because they're walking and they're mobile. So maybe that was helping them, not the coffee enemas or the juicing.
Or maybe just having the support, maybe having a lot of money, and having a lot of help. Like there could have been so many different factors towards that. She took her mom there and, her mom was like, okay, like her mom and dad her dad was really opposed to this, but he didn't go with her. The mom did. And the mom was like, I really want to support this choice. But you could tell she had doubts. But then after she talked with the woman who owned it, she was like, okay, maybe this is something, because she just seemed very convinced of it. And it's really sad because then, not that I mean, I'm sure having enemas and drinking fresh fruit juice and being out and walking and living this style, I'm sure that's very healthy, but that may not necessarily be a cure for, like there may be some people who get lucky and maybe something reverses by some circumstance, some happenstance, but it does not mean that was necessarily connected.
Or mix it together with traditional and alternative or find something or I can't imagine just living on juice.
Whew. And I mean, that was kind of like that lifestyle promoted. You had to be devoted just kind of to that, right? The enemas were like 5 times a day. Yeah. The juices were like 14 juices.
Yeah, that seems like it would wreak havoc.
Yeah, I think they made jokes about that. They were kind of like, I got to be near a bathroom kind of thing. But the sad part about that, and I have to say, the character of Millie to me frustrated me after, like, I understand that she wanted to believe this. But then with her mom, she was really pushing her mom when her mom got sick. She was really pushing her mom to do this and to, kind of say, okay, this is something that you need to do as well, too. All you need to do, I'll even do the enemas. Like, I know the protocol. Like, she thought she just knew everything, how to cure this. And it turns out her mom was a different story. I mean, she was too. She didn't realize that, at that point. But, her mom was like, got really sick when she first got the enemas and really had to be brought to the hospital and realized, oh my gosh, maybe this is not going to work for her. But the mom really wants to go through the treatment because we realize the mom feels guilty because she was like, well, what kind of mom would I be if I let my daughter do this? And I didn't do this too. Like, I didn't believe in it. And I have to say, I know the daughter wants to believe in it, but she really is pushy and it allows her mom to the life. And I know this is just the character, and I know there's a hard mindset here, and maybe I can't even put myself in that person's shoes, but that annoyed me. That really frustrated.
There were scenes where I was like, I just love the dad because, he's trying to stand up for the mom and even stand up for Millie, and the boyfriend is so annoying. And they're just like toting this vegan lifestyle and everything else. If you don't want to be in it, you should not force other people into everything like that. And then the dad is just like, you're killing her. Your kid, and he's trying to say, like, don't force your lifestyle for your medical beliefs or everything else on your mom.
Yeah. Millie knew it wasn't working for her.
At that moment, she was hiding her arm, had all the sores or the boils or whatever. And at the same time, she's telling her mom, like, don't take any medication.
Yeah. Which I recognize was like a form of denial. She didn't want to believe she was dying. She wanted to believe this was working. But I just think it's so sad that the mom could have had maybe a chance, maybe she did too, if she was able to admit to herself, like, hey, maybe I just need to look at this as well. It doesn't have to be fully this. She could have maybe still the arm amputation, which is, of course, really, really hard. And then it was just too late by the time she recognized it, and she showed her dad and was like, I didn't get remission from this. And the mom's, so it's just really frustrating to see. I think there's an overall theme in this showing, like we said, there's a balance between looking at holistic options, but also in saying you can't solely rely on that 100% all the time, especially, depending on what it is, but in those cases, certainly not.
Well, and also both of those people that we're talking about, Belle and Millie, it's thinking, like not thinking that you're the be all end all or that you have all the answers. It's okay to seek outside help or, not just one person or one resource either.
Yeah, and I think they're doing it for different reasons. Like Belle is doing it for attention and the fact that she's got personality disorder. She's trying to meet other needs. Millie is doing it because she really wants to feel like she's in control. Like she shouldn't just have this option of like, oh, chop off my arm or that's it, which is, of course, understandable. But unfortunately, I think that was maybe the reality. And the surgeon was like, listen to me. The surgeon was trying to warn her. And it's just heartbreaking, I think, to see that. Because, of course, when you're in that situation, you want to believe there's other alternatives.
Yeah.
But Belle is a totally different story because she hoped and published all these things.
One thing too, like, which is very like, I don't know what her diagnosis, but it is very much like a narcissist, like where she would love bomb every single person, like all the people, then just, like, it just seemed like she was just so like almost in like a trance with like the phone and the app and like just, oh, look, what are people saying? How are people replying to what I'm posting? And it just, do they love me or is it all about me? And her reality was just very skewed in every aspect.
Yeah, it really was. And she really was getting like such a feed from that, and she would do anything, and to the point where, she was confronted by Millie's friend who was, that she was like, basically like, we know, why don't you just come clean and
be honest.
It looked like for a minute, that Belle was going to be like, okay, maybe I should. And the friend kind of thought like, oh wow, she's gonna come clean. And then she ups the ante and says she now has 3 new cancers, and it's like she needs even more. All these underlying mental health themes with personality disorders, how they can show also influencers and not checking your resources, not knowing what is good for your own health versus just relying on what people are putting out there as content. The fact that it made it to a book, that is, I think, a fault of there not being proper check in place. I do think that was an irresponsibility on the part of the publishers and everything. I don't really know if that's something they would typically do. Like, I don't know that process, but there was something that was missing.
Maybe they would check your medical records or something, because it seems like for interviews, even they say, let's see your references, or, so why would they not for a very expensive book deal? Why would they not say we need references or we need proof that this is real?
Yeah. And the woman who was publishing it was kind of asking, and then they had that whole crisis session with her to be like, okay, if you go on interviews, you have to be ready to answer this. And I couldn't tell if this was them trying to be like,
We know.
Yeah, she's full of it.
Because she was kind of backpedaling at that point too. Belle was in the movie or whatever it is show that she's like, oh, maybe we don't have to mention the cancer cookbook or we're this. And they're like, no.
That's a big part of the story and the selling points and that everybody wants.
But I think at that point she was like, oh crap, I'm getting, because she had the email from the, the reporters and everything. So at that point she's probably realizing like, oh great, everybody is knowing what my truth is. It's going to come out.
Yeah. But I do wonder, I'm not sure if this really happened or not, but in the Netflix dramatization, they had that session with her and I think they were onto her, but I almost feel like they were trying to be like, you have to be able to sell this. It started to become very apparent. They're like, all right, we got to pull this in. So they were aware of it at a certain point, late in the game, but we're like, okay, let's still try to sell
we still have to make money off of this.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's truly, I mean, and this is, I've watched interviews with the real Belle Gibson. She is a slippery slope personified. Really? She is just really avoids questions. They're very vague in answers. They don't make sense. There's a famous interview with her with Tara Brown, which actually Tara Brown is in the dramatization. She is Tara Brown.
Her. Oh, okay. So that's interesting.
That is her. Yeah, they had her in there. She's like Australia's like hard-hitting journalist. Apparently they love her and, she just gets to the point and she
I think you said she has that saving sweater.
Yes. Which I don't know if it's trying to be like innocent
I'm just
or
like
just kind of like like I'm just kind of a everyday person just wearing pink, and I don't know what the intention was on out, but
it doesn't seem like she did anything not well planned.
Yeah, she definitely was very manipulative. But yeah, and her brother has been interviewed being like, I don't know why she said I was autistic or that she took care of me. Like, that's just not true, He actually seemed to be pretty much like, I still care about her. I just don't get this. So he was
really mad at my sister or brother if they were doing that. This is affecting me and my reputation and everything.
Yeah. You know what? There's one more thing that we didn't mention was the little boy who she was raising funds for, who actually had a brain tumor and like a really advanced one. And she ended up not giving them money that they needed. And they were depending on that for the surgery that he needed. It was like too late to be like, oh, well, where else can we get the funds? I don't know how accurate that was in the life story, but that is just horrendous.
Read that part of the things too is she promised, I think it was $300,000 to different charities that she would, probably even more, that she never did anything for. So she probably was scamming a bunch of people.
Yeah, like raising like GoFundMes and then not giving them the money when they're donating for that purpose.
Which makes you really question how many times, like when you see all these GoFundMes, but these GoFundMes that people have, like how many are people actually using for what they say they are? And how much are people just using the money and then buying themselves a new car, even though they say they're helping someone else? There's really no way. Hopefully people are actually using it, but you don't know. I mean, you're just putting your trust in these people.
Well, she really doesn't give a good name to it for sure. I think people were very, she definitely lost a lot of people's trust and kind of caused them to look over things a few times before trusting anything, if at all, again. But it definitely tells us that we should really look into who these people are, these influencers. You really don't know. There's lots of people who can say things and you may not ever know if it's true, and they may be touting these things that this will work for you. It really is just worth it to do your research. And it's understandable if you want to go a holistic route, if you want to do functional treatment, but it really be careful with your sources there. It's not just because it looks good on social media does not.
Yeah, even if the person has credentials, still look and see what it is. Because like we were saying, like, I keep, my algorithm is like, probably all charlatans right now. But like, I feel like I'm getting touted like everything lately. Like, oh, join this course, do this. You want to be younger? You want to be richer? You want to be this? You want, like I keep getting all this stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, how do I stop this? But yeah, just be careful of like who you're looking at or who you're following, or just be aware that some of these people, they have ulterior motives.
For sure. Yeah. And that is the story of Belle Gibson and her horrendousness, complete and utter lack of regard for anyone but herself, even including her son, which I do believe she really cares for and loves him, but in the way that only she can, which has limitations. From what it seems like. So anything else we want to hop in there that we didn't cover?
No, I think we're curious what your question is going to be this week. You're like,
okay,
oh no,
so
I have to think of one.
No, I did think of one when we were talking, and I'm like, this is probably a pretty tough question, but okay. So if you had to, for say, 30 days, just for like a health routine, not because you're trying to cure anything, but you had to choose between getting coffee enemas 5 times a day or drinking up to 14 glasses of pure fruit juice, what would you choose?
I say neither. Even because the juices looked so gross. They weren't like just like, it was like, you know, like here's your beet juice, here's this. But I guess I would do the juice. And I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to do 14 of them. I think I'd probably max out at 3 and then just be like, oh gosh. I mean, 14
sugar. I know it's natural sugar, but it's still a lot of sugar.
Yeah, it's just like, because even that, like your stomach would cramp up. It just, because I've done like the juicing before. I'm like, I have buy a, you know, like years ago, I'm like, I bought a juicer. I'm going to do a juice. I couldn't even drink 1 glass of like fresh done juice with like beet and celery and apple. Like I've done all that. I'm like, okay, it's going to be great. It's like, it's so gross. Like when you make it yourself.
Yeah. I think that would be horrible. So maybe we would say like 5 times a day or something then. I still think that's pretty bad, but I would go with the juice as well. I think coffee enemas you have to be careful about in general. And colon cancers are on the rise of people under like in between 30 and 40 in the United States. That's why they lowered the colonoscopy age to 45. And I don't think that that is something necessarily regulated nor healthy and could be very damaging. But the juices, I think it's not great for sugar, or whatever, but I think that would probably be more palatable. So I'd go for that too. Hopefully we'd never have to be in that situation.
Forced,
this is just a random
it's like,
question.
I'll give you a few $1,000s if you do this. Yeah, because I remember when I did try to do, I wasn't on like a juice cleanse. I just like, I bought this book. It's called like the Juicing Bible. And I bought this nice juicer, not the Ninja one, but just like a, nice juicer. And there's such a pain in the neck to clean. And it was just like, even if you really clean your fruit or vegetable before, it still tastes like dirt. It's still like, it's not, because I would always be like, because I'm like, okay, beets are supposed to be good and do this. And then you get like this, you get like, just like, you don't get a full glass. It's a lot of juicing for a little bit of effort. And then you're just kind of stomach it down. Yeah. No, thank you. I'd rather like a smoothie. Yeah.
I think that's acceptable in this imaginary situation. Also, someone else can make it
or maybe
for
I'll
us,
just change mine into an ice cream shake.
Or maybe we'll just not do it. Yeah, overall.
I'll just have a coffee or just drink some water. Yeah, I'll drink a coffee and then I will just eat some fruit for my juice. Yeah, that's what I'll do.
Yes, that sounds a lot healthier. See, balanced people, that's what we're talking about. These are just not balanced routines. I'm not saying, if you have your own thing, I don't know everybody's situation, but not in these instances, they weren't. We hope you enjoyed that. Let us know what you think. If you have anything to add, follow us on socials. We're on everything, including YouTube. We are there now. Send us a review, 5-star review. Really helps.
Send it to your friends. We would love to get to 1,000 downloads a day or more.
Absolutely. And don't forget, stay wicked.
And keep your mind well. All right. Have a great week. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.